Hey everybody, this is Dr. Dain. Welcome to this installment of the Tour of Consciousness from lovely Puerto Vallarta, where I am facilitating a Being You Changing the World facilitators class. We call them BYCS, Being You Certified Facilitators, and it has been phenomenal so far. And so for today's tool, I wanted to talk to you about one of the things that has come up recently and came up in class again today. And I'm gonna try to give this to you in a short, succinct fashion that I'm hoping will create a sense of more ease in your world and also give you some clarity on some things that may or may not have worked for you. And it's the idea of being an allowance versus being an acceptance. And if you've seen any of my videos, you know I talk about this thing called allowance, which is where everything is just an interesting point of view. When you're an allowance, you're not aligning and agreeing, which is the positive polarity, which is alignment and agreement is, yes, this is real, this is reality. And you're not resisting and reacting, which is the negative polarity, which is where you're fighting against something. And like, for example, if somebody says, you're a jerk, allowance is, okay, I'm a jerk. Like, I realize that's your point of view, no charge. And what happens in allowance is you have no walls and barriers up, but you can get there by lowering the walls and barriers, like lowering that stuff that you use to resist and react, and just let it on through. So in allowance, somebody goes, you're a jerk, and you just let the energy through without it sticking in you. And it's like, okay, I get that that's your point of view, and okay, fine. And it's kind of like if somebody's trying to punch a marshmallow, you can't punch a marshmallow because the marshmallow goes, hee, you know, like try to punch the marshmallow man, he goes, hee. And like the Pillsbury Doughboy kind of. So if we look at that, then so in order to go into resistance and reaction, and this is where this conversation becomes so vital, is there's a lot of things in our lives that we resist, a lot of people we resist, a lot of concepts we resist, and resistance and reaction live together. When we're in resistance, we react to it, we react against it. And one of the other things is we've all been taught that in order not to do or be something that we see somebody else, hold on, I think I have a bug. Okay, bye-bye bug. In order not to do something that we see somebody else doing or being, we think that the way to not be it is to fight against it. Like if you had a father that was created something that you didn't want to have as your life, you think the way not to have that life is to fight against it, which is the resistance and reaction. In actuality, the way not to have that is to get to allowance. Okay, so what do? Is we're so used to living in a world where we think we create change by fighting against, but if you're fighting against, you have to come down to the level of whatever or whoever you're fighting in order to try to change it, which brings you down to that level. There's this other possibility called allowance, where you get bigger than that. You lower your walls and barriers, and you can use this tool. Interesting point of view, I have this point of view. And what you can do right now is take some upset you have in your world, something or someone you're still resisting, some upset, some energy of upset that's still in your world for the last day or so, or maybe for the last week or so that you haven't been able to get rid of. Lower your walls and barriers. This is where your choice comes in. Lower your walls and barriers, lower your walls and barriers. Okay, there we go. See, doesn't that feel better? Doesn't that feel more like you already? Because fight is not our natural state. Resistance is not our natural state. Reaction is not our natural state. Allowance actually is. We're more like the animals and the plants and the little insects and the birds and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, so lower the walls and barriers, which gives you more of a sense of you. And now, to whatever that energy is, just get it and go, interesting point of view. I have this point of view. Cool. Usually it shifts with just one time when you're actually have the walls and barriers lowered. And now one more time, interesting point of view, I have this point of view. And the energy changes again usually. And again, interesting point of view, I have this point of view. Interesting point of view, I have this point of view. Interesting point of view, I have this point of view. What happened to it? For most people, between 3 and 6 or 7 times of saying it, when they do it from lowering the walls and barriers first, and really making a choice to go, I'm going to have something different. Like right now with all the bugs flying around me, dear Lord, interesting point of view, I have this point of view. It's a beautiful way of walking differently through the world, but also changing things that are creating an upset that we actually have the choice to change. And so what choice for change do you have that you haven't been choosing? Now, along with this, we then try to fight to prove that we're right and someone and something else is wrong. But once again, then we're stuck in the fight. And don't we see that everywhere in our world? This is what we've all learned as the way I'm going to have me by fighting against you. I'm going to have me by fighting against this. I'm going to have me by fighting against other people and other concepts and other, other colors. You're red, I'm blue. I'm going to fight. It's like, enough. Let's end the fight. Now, so that's allowance. And notice, even when I talk about it, a lot of you kind of go, oh, like you feel like you can take a deep breath because that's what's actually true for you. Now, let's talk about allowance light, which is actually acceptance, okay? Acceptance sounds better than the fight and the resistance and reaction. But what acceptance actually is if we have the positive polarity of alignment and agreement and the negative polarity of resistance and reaction that we can all relate to, acceptance is you think you're doing better because you're only aligning and agreeing, you're not resisting and reacting. Here's the problem. When you align and agree with a reality, you create that reality as a reality. You create it as real. One of the things we said in Access for years is a reality gets created wherever two or more people align and agree on a point of view that this is reality. So for example, I was working with somebody recently who had this problem with somebody in her life that she really cared about. And there was this sort of constant state of nagging upset. And I said to her, I said, what would it be like? What would true allowance be? And she's like, what? I said, well, actually right now you're doing acceptance. She's like, wait a minute. I think I am an allowance. I'm not resisting it anymore. I'm not resisting who she's being and how the situation is showing up. I said, I know, but you have aligned and agreed that this is the only situation that can show up. So you've taken yourself out of fighting against it and fighting against her and fighting against the situation, but you've also aligned and agreed that this is the situation and this is the reality which is sticking you. And she went, oh my goodness, this is so different than anything I've ever looked at, which is why I'm having the conversation with you guys. Thank you for being part of the Tour of Consciousness. Yay, us! Okay, so I said, what would true allowance be here? And she went, I don't think I have a clue. I'm like, I know, that's why I'm asking, because anytime you ask a question, you can actually get to that awareness if you will allow yourself to have the vulnerability and lower the walls and barriers to perceive this different awareness of the way things could be. And everything we create and everything we change in our lives and relationships actually occurs from this space of allowing a different possibility, because this beautiful universe in which we live has infinite, literally infinite possibilities. Even science will tell you that. Oh my goodness. So I asked her to lower walls and barriers, which she did. And I said, now let's look from no alignment and agreement anymore, which is acceptance, and no resistance and reaction, which is the fight, and actual allowance. And she looked and she went, oh my goodness. I don't know how to describe it, but there's this space that wasn't there before. Before it was she was doing her contraction and I was doing my contraction as a way of avoiding her contraction and avoiding fighting her contraction. So I separated. And now I realize I can actually be an allowance and allow her to choose what she's choosing. But from there, I can also ask what else is possible that I've never considered. So what you've just been given in the last, 8 minutes or whatever it is, 6, 7, 10, 20 minutes, what you've just been given is a really dynamic short course in changing constructs and concepts of how you relate to everything if you choose. Please watch this video again. Watch it until this energy becomes something that you're familiar with and that you have a sense of knowing and being able to choose. Please, I could consider, it would be such a great gift to me if you would do that, because I would so love for you to have this awareness. So Thank you very much for being part of the Tour of Consciousness. Sorry it's been a little while. I've been a little busy and a little cranky, and I don't really like to make videos when I'm cranky. And then I realized as I'm making this video, if I would have gotten into allowance of myself and used my own damn tool, I might have been cranky for less time. And now I'm going to be an allowance of how stupid I am sometimes. Oh well, we all do it, don't we? And you know what? Sometimes it's nice to know you're not the only one. What if you, truly being you, as the allowance you have the choice to be, that maybe nobody else is willing to make, are the gift, the change, and the possibility this world requires? Thank you, my beautiful friends. I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.